If you've always felt out of sync with this world since you were a child, maybe you were never lost. Perhaps you've simply been walking ahead of the memory of an entire lifetime. Some people move through the crowd without ever truly being there. They smile at the right moments, nod when they're supposed to, keep things in order. But deep inside, there's always a door that remains closed. A door that no one ever taught them how to open. There's no key, no map, only a faint sound coming from the other side. This is not where I belong. Have you ever felt that way? Sitting in a classroom, listening to the chalk scratch across the board, wondering how people can believe this is the entire world. Or at a party, lights flashing, music thumping, everyone laughing, while you watch it all from behind some thin glass, shaking quietly where no one can see. Maybe you said something deeply real, about a dream you keep having or a place you've never been but somehow miss, and people just laughed or went quiet. And that's when you learned your first sacred lesson. Don't speak the sacred out loud. No one believes. How many years have you lived like that? Existing, while avoiding the biggest questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why does everything feel a little off when everyone else says it's all fine? The world doesn't make space for those questions. They tell you you're too sensitive, too imaginative, too dreamy. They want you to be normal, and you tried for a long time. Until one night, when no one was around, you sat in silence and whispered, "Has anyone else ever felt this?" No answer came, only a sensation, like a breeze brushing the back of your neck. And for a second, you didn't feel so alone. You just hadn't found the right person yet. Maybe you've dreamed of flying, then falling. The feeling was so real that when you woke, the wind still echoed in your ears. Maybe you saw a symbol on a wall, in a book, in someone's tattoo, and for a fleeting moment, something inside you stilled, as if a long-lost part of you had just come home. You thought it was a coincidence, but a soul in awakening doesn't live by chance. You are not strange. You are not broken. You're simply tuned to a frequency that the world forgot how to hear. You carry a song with no lyrics, one that everyone once knew, but has since forgotten. And maybe, just maybe, this moment, right here, isn't random. You've passed by dozens of videos, hundreds of messages, but something about this one won't let you go. You don't need to name it. Just let it sit quietly inside you like a seed. It doesn't have to bloom yet. Just don't throw it away, because sometimes awakening doesn't arrive like thunder. It comes in a soft, silent second when your heart touches something you can't explain but deeply recognize. And if that's happening now, breathe. Because maybe you, who always thought you were lost, they are finally returning to a place no map could ever show, a place where you get to be yourself, fully, for the very first time. There comes a strange moment in life when you're no longer sure if what you're feeling is even real. Not because the emotions disappear, but because you've been told too many times that you're too much. You've sensed something was off in a room, not from what was said, but from the silence after the words. You've entered relationships that felt wrong from the start, subtle ripples inside you, but you didn't dare trust that instinct. You thought, maybe I'm just overthinking. So you carried on. You swallowed the emotion, ignored the feeling, pushed through the gut sense, until the very thing you feared happened, exactly as you felt it would. But by then, there's no satisfaction in being right, only exhaustion, because you had to betray yourself so many times just to get there. You once spoke from the heart and were told you were being negative. You wanted to step back, and they said you were weak. You asked for time, and they called you confusing, so you went quiet. You began adjusting yourself to fit into a world that couldn't understand the language of your inner world. You thought you were maturing, but really you were learning how to hit mute on your soul. And one day, you no longer knew what your true feelings even were. You sat among familiar people, smiling, nodding, playing the part of someone okay, while something inside you had quietly stopped living. It didn't die. It just withdrew. like a wounded creature that's been hurt too many times, now hiding in the shadows, waiting for you to come back. Doubt crept in. Is there something wrong with me? Am I the only one who feels this way? Are there others, just like me, pretending everything's fine but secretly holding themselves together? You didn't dare ask. No one asked you either, so you lived as if everything was fine, while inside you were like a clock without hands, still ticking. But no one knew what it was counting toward. There's a kind of pain that doesn't come from what others say. It comes from the words you never said, to yourself. And there's a kind of awakening that doesn't arrive through light. It arrives in the quiet moment when you sit alone in the dark, unable to deny it any longer. You've been gone from your feelings for far too long. That is not the end. That is the moment your soul starts to whisper again, so softly, just enough for your breath to slow. And if you're willing to listen, you might realize you are still whole. It's just that no one ever believed you. And now, it's time for you to believe again. There are things you've never read, never studied, never heard anyone mention, yet they make you feel, I've known this for a very, very long time. Not with your mind, but with a kind of memory that doesn't use words. You've arrived at a strange place, a quiet street, a forgotten house, a distant town, and the moment your feet touched the ground, something in you whispered, I'm home. No one greeted you. No one said your name, but the dust in the air, the rhythm of the wind, the way the light curled around the buildings, somehow made your heart ache like it remembered someone who once lived inside you. You've heard a song for the first time, and suddenly, the tears came. Not from sadness, not from nostalgia, but because that melody opened a door that had been locked for lifetimes. You've looked into a stranger's eyes for barely 3 seconds, and your heartbeat changed. It wasn't love, it wasn't a crush. It was something you couldn't name. I've known you before. You've never told anyone about these moments, have you? Because you were afraid they'd call you delusional. But you remember, and that feeling never truly left. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious. But beyond theory, what you're sensing are echoes. Echoes from lives you've never had a name for. Maybe in a dream you wore clothes from another century. Maybe you spoke a strange language and woke up remembering a few words. Maybe you've always been drawn to a culture, a place, a sound. Not for any clear reason, just because it felt like home and you thought it was just a matter of personal taste. But maybe it's memory waiting to be called back. Not so you can find out who you were in a past life, but so you can remember. You are more than this current name. You are a journey, a soul that was never born for the first time, but has returned. More than once, not to repeat, but to continue. So when these signs show up, faint, recurring, impossible to explain, they are not random. They are invitations, soft, thin as a knock from behind the wall of reality. You don't hear them with your ears. You hear them with the vibration in your body when you see a symbol, a face, or a moment that should mean nothing, but somehow means everything. And if you don't rush past it, if you pause just long enough, you might begin to realize it's not that you're remembering a past life, it's that your past lives. Are you remembering you? Not everyone awakens through a great collision. Sometimes it comes gently, as if you were just living through ordinary days, and one day you start feeling like everything is drifting by, and you're no longer present. You still go to work, you still meet people, you fulfill your responsibilities. But in the middle of a conversation, something strange happens. You slip out of your body just for a moment. You watch it all, like a stage play. You're not acting anymore, you're observing. And you realize, for a long time now, it feels like someone else has been steering your life. That moment doesn't arrive with fireworks, but it's real. It doesn't begin with a calling, but with a question. If I'm not all of this, then who am I? Awakening is not about finding an answer. It's the first time you stop running, and accept that all the labels you've tried so hard to wear just don't fit anymore. Your name, your age, your job, your gender, your social roles, they're like clothes you've worn, torn, and replaced, but none of them ever truly felt like you. Then one day, you look into a mirror, you stare into your own eyes, and what looks back at you is a stranger. Not sad, not joyful, just hollow, not empty in the broken sense, but hollow, like something old is finally dissolving, making space for something ancient in you to return. Maybe you've dreamed of drifting through space, directionless. No one is speaking. No one is touching you. But you weren't afraid. You were just waiting. And in that waiting, a soft light began to glow. Not bright, not golden, but pale blue, barely there, gently expanding. It wasn't leading you anywhere. It simply lit up exactly where you stood. And in that light, for the first time, you saw yourself without the need to perform. Not an angel, not a divine being, just a human who had wandered very far from themselves and was now coming home. You haven't remembered everything, and that's okay. Because awakening isn't about remembering the past. It's about daring to be real in the present, from a self that no longer hides. And if you're in that fragile in-between space, where your old beliefs are crumbling and nothing new has arrived yet, please know this: you are not broken. You are shedding, not to become someone else, but to return to someone you've always been, with no need to explain why. Awakening isn't just realizing you've been living someone else's script. It's when strange symbols start appearing in your life and something inside you feels like it's being called home. You begin seeing the same symbol again and again, in books, in dreams, on a stranger's shirt, on a billboard, even in the cracks of an old wall. A broken circle, a closed eye, an arm reaching out from beneath water. You don't understand it, but you know this is no coincidence. You've seen certain numbers appear every time you think of something deeply true in your heart. 333, 1111, 2222. No one can explain it, but you feel it, like a knock from within. You may have dreamed of walking through a library, huge, endless, but with no books, only sheets of wordless music arranged like memories. You walk down the halls, not searching for information, but for a melody you once wrote a very long time ago. Or maybe you dreamt of a stone bridge leading into the sea. You step forward, one slow pace at a time. The ocean isn't blue, the sky isn't bright, but still you walk, not out of bravery, just from the quiet knowing, if I don't walk forward, I will forget who I am. That is when memory starts to rise, not through words, but through symbols, not so you can decode them, but so you can remember. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to stay with it long enough. These symbols are the soul's original language, older than writing, older than words. They are what you feel, not in the mind, but in the body. You've had goosebumps without reason. You've cried looking at a symbol that seemed meaningless. You've stood frozen before a black and white photograph, and in that moment felt like you were in it. No one can explain that to you, because no one can remember for you. Only you carry the exact frequency needed to translate that symbol from the depths of who you've once been. Carl Jung once said, "Symbols are not meant to be analyzed, they are meant to be lived with until they come alive inside you." And he was right. Those strange images you keep seeing are not signals from the outside. They are parts of you that you once sent forward in time from some far-off point, so that one day, when you came back to this moment, you would remember. I don't remember the name. I don't remember the face. But remember this. You were never abandoned in forgetfulness. You once left yourself a trail, in the only language you couldn't fake, resonant memory. Have you ever felt like a part of you already knew all of this, long before you heard it, but simply pretended to forget? not because you lacked knowledge, but because you're walking a path your soul once traced long ago, not on paper, but inside your heart. The memories, the dreams, the symbols. They're not here to confuse you. They're here to say, I'm still here. I never left. I, meaning you. The version of you from far, far back. Those who have already walked through these lessons. The you who chose to return, not to repeat, but to finish a melody that was once left undone. You thought you were lost, but the truth is, some deeper part of you has been leaving signs along the way. A song that plays at the exact moment your heart aches. A stranger who speaks a single sentence that touches a wound no one else even knew existed. A book you pull from a dusty shelf and inside it reads, "You're still on the right path, even if you don't know its name." None of it is random. Your soul hasn't been sleeping. It only stepped aside, so you could learn to walk alone for a while. Until one day, when you're quiet enough, tired enough, honest enough not to pretend anymore. You turn around and realize the map was always there, not on your phone, not in the stars, but in the way your heart tightens every time you get close to something you once were. That's why some places make you cry. Why do some people feel familiar? Why certain moments feel like someone is whispering, "Keep going, don't be afraid, I'm still here." No one else, just a deeper part of you, quieter, vaster, wiser, waiting for you to recognize yourself again. You don't need to know everything. You just need to trust what you feel, especially the feelings that don't make sense, because those feelings weren't made to be understood. They are signals you once left for yourself, like pebbles along the road, like a melody in the silence, like a glance that echoes from a place you can't quite name. And when you finally pause, breathe, turn inward, you'll realize you were never lost. You've been walking a path. Your soul remembered all along. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Many people think awakening is a glorious moment, but to Jung, it was a journey through the shadow. Not every light is real, and not every shadow is bad. Often, your soul hides memories in the dark. To protect them from what? Because if you're not yet strong enough, looking at them too soon would shatter you. That's why the symbols, the repeating numbers, the strange sensations, they don't come all at once. They come scattered, like little lights your soul is turning on, one by one, in the basement of your memory. Dolores Cannon, in her past life regression work, once shared, "Soul memory isn't stored in the mind, it's embedded in your energy structure." She worked with thousands of people from different cultures, and when they entered a deep trance state, they told eerily similar stories. They didn't know each other. They hadn't studied the same theories. And yet, they remembered the same gates, the same symbols, the same soul schools, where they once planned the life they're living now. Michael Newton, who spent his life documenting the life between lives, once wrote, "Earth is a school, but unlike any other school, you forget that you ever enrolled." What does that mean? It means you didn't come here by accident. You weren't dropped here and left to wander. You chose to come. You chose your family. You chose your challenges. You even chose your pain, because you believed that in the process of forgetting, you would one day remember, not through theory, but through vibration. Eckhart Tolle speaks more gently. He doesn't talk about past lives, he talks about presence, about how the ego always wants you to fix yourself to be loved, while presence only wants you to be still and breathe. And when you are still, and you breathe, and you accept yourself exactly as you are, you begin to hear the soul's whisper. Not a scream, not a demand, just a gentle signal. Do you remember now? There's a kind of intelligence that doesn't come from learning. It doesn't appear when you're trying hard to figure things out. It only comes when you stop trying to understand. That's intuition, not impulsive emotion. Not a quick reaction, but a quiet, deep kind of knowing, one that needs no reason. Yet when you follow it, everything seems to fall into place. You've felt it before, that moment when you're about to turn left, but something in you says, wait. You're about to send that message, but your hand stops, not from fear, but because something inside whispers, not yet. That's not laziness, it's not hesitation. That's soul memory, guiding you. Some call it the higher self, others call it a spirit guide. Eckhart Tolle calls it presence. It doesn't matter what you name it. What matters is this. There is a part of you that always knows. The only question is, are you quiet enough to hear it? The challenge is, we live in a noisy world. Too many voices, too many choices, too many shoulds and shouldn'ts. Intuition doesn't shout, it only whispers, and you won't hear that whisper. If you don't step away from the noise, you don't need to meditate 8 hours a day. You don't need to read hundreds of spiritual books. You just need one space, truly silent, each day, where you don't try to do anything. Just breathe. Just be there. No goal, no deadline, no expectation. And in that moment, if you're patient enough, you'll begin to notice, this is how I feel. And from that space, you begin to walk, not with certainty, not with a perfect map, but with a new kind of trust. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Presence doesn't give you answers, it simply clears the noise, so the answers can find you. And when they do, you no longer ask if it's right or wrong. You just feel, this is what I need to do. And I'm calm enough to do it, if you've made it this far. Perhaps your soul just touched a piece of memory your mind cannot name, and that is enough. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to believe it all. You just need to notice something in you stirred. Maybe it was a nameless longing, a sigh you didn't know where it came from, or simply the soft feeling, I've known this before. Don't rush to find the meaning. Let that feeling stay inside you, like a seed that doesn't need to bloom just yet. Let it rest. Let it sleep in your heart, without forcing it to grow, without pushing it open. Because not everything is meant to be decoded right away. Some things are simply meant to be felt. And if your heart feels just a bit quieter, if your breath slowed down even just a little, then maybe, just maybe, you've taken another step, not on the road of life, but on the path back to yourself. You don't need to become someone new. You only need to stop forgetting who you've always been. There is a door. You've seen it in dreams many times. No one taught you about it. No one gave you a map, but it's always been there, silent, waiting, not to lead you into another world, but to bring you back to yourself without the mask. You may not be ready to open that door today, and that's okay, because simply knowing it exists means you are no longer alone. Your soul has always been here, quiet, patient, unmoving, and from this moment on, every step you take, every symbol that finds you, every dream that returns, will no longer feel random. They are clues you left behind, soft maps drawn in the memory of your vibration. And if someday you feel lost, remember this: you only need to pause, breathe, and listen. Your soul is still whispering, I'm still here, and I never left.